In these last 28 years, the one thing that I've been convinced of and impressed by is the power of the plate, the power of plant-powered nutrition, and the potential to catalyze change, both in personal health, family health, the health of my patients, the health of the community. So this is one reason why I decided to get involved with Plant Powered Metro New York. I grew up in a very health-focused household. My mom was a dietitian. My dad is a researcher. But I didn't discover whole food plant-based nutrition until much later in life as a mother of 5. And we went through a family health crisis. And through that, I discovered whole food plant-based nutrition. So since transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet, I've noticed a lot of great changes, most notably energy and stamina, but also gastrointestinal health, even my hair and nails. It's like a side benefit. And also emotional health, being much more self-aware, self-compassionate, compassion with others. And also cognitive health, mental agility and focus, that has all improved. And it has helped me be the best version of myself as a mother and as a physician. Part of why I like being part of the board for Plant Powered Metro New York is that it allows me to reach people where they're at and where change happens. And the organization is focused on equity, on lifting up community members, making them leaders and educators. There's a lot of grassroots wisdom, cultural humility, there's lived experience, and this is why I feel like our missions are aligned. There's a lot you can do within the medical system and in the clinic, but there's that much more you can do in the community, in the schools, in the gardens, in the grocery stores, in the restaurants. So I feel that Plant Powered Metro New York complements medical care. It actually gives the tools for people to actually make the change, make these lifestyle changes. It provides a very welcoming, non-judgmental community where people can enter where they want, however they want, in whatever capacity. It's grounded in evidence-based lifestyle medicine science. We're not driven by trends. We're not driven by fads or commercial interests. The science is clear, but the support and community makes change possible. And Plant Powered Metro New York offers both. If you're interested in being part of this movement, there are a lot of ways to get involved with this organization. And if this mission resonates with you, please join by just participating or donating time or money or organizing a potluck or a film screening or even a restaurant get-together dinner. There are a lot of ways to contribute, and we invite you to join us in this movement.
Many voices, one mission, health for all. Plant Powered Metro New York's 4th annual Plantathon celebration is here. My name is Leanna Levine-Reisner, joining you from Manhattan. Over 8 days, Plantathon 2025 celebrates the diverse and ever-expanding movement for health through plant-powered nutrition, not only in our Metro New York communities, but also across the country and the globe. Together, we are bringing about a healthier and more sustainable future by putting wholesome plants on our plates. For those who may not know us, Plant Powered Metro empowers diverse residents and communities to achieve vibrant health and overcome chronic disease through whole food, plant-based nutrition. Eating plants can prevent, treat, and even reverse a wide array of health concerns and conditions. This is day 6 of Plantathon. Plant Powered Metro has made a commitment to give back to you through Plantathon while asking for your financial support of our mission today and throughout the giving season. We invite you to donate through the QR code or the link on your screen. Every donation you make through the end of December will be matched by a generous anonymous donor. And anyone who donates or registers for Plantathon by Sunday, December 7th, with or without a donation, will be entered to win one of many great Plantathon prizes. For more information about how to enter to win a Plantathon prize, you can see our official rules linked on the Plantathon page on our website. We'd also like to offer our gratitude to Plantathon's sponsors, California Balsamic and Farm to People, and the many organizations that have sponsored prizes throughout the week. Tonight is the second of 2 Plantathon throwback nights. Our team is taking a night off from streaming live while we are revisiting some of our favorite interviews from previous years of Plantathon. A few years ago, we spoke with Dr. Yami Cazorla-Lancaster out of Washington State. double board certified in pediatrics and lifestyle medicine, and a health coach. Dr. Yami is the author of A Parent's Guide to Intuitive Eating: How to Raise Kids Who Love to Eat Healthy, and a passionate advocate for chronic disease prevention through whole food, plant-based living. Enjoy this excerpt of our 2022 interview with Dr. Yami. So between your personal experience as a mother and your professional life in pediatrics, you must field a lot of questions and concerns from parents about their children's eating habits, their diet quality, their growth. What are maybe two of the most common things you hear, and what do you say? How do you address them?
Well, yes, I think being a pediatrician, you're basically, that's the main thing you talk about is growth and nutrition. And I think one of the most common questions that I hear from families is just that they're concerned about the size of their child's body, whether it's too large or too small. So one of the things I talk about a lot is growth charts and following each child within their own curve and just making sure that they're having access to adequate calories, but also ensuring that the majority of those calories are health promoting. So lots of whole plant foods with lots of fiber and lots of antioxidants, and having that structured meal plan so that you're eating your meals and your snacks on a flexible, structured way, and then practicing the principles of intuitive eating and the division of responsibilities, which is why I wrote the book I wrote. So I think that's the main thing. And then, of course, when it comes just to nutrition in particular, everybody's worried about protein. So protein comes up all the time. And then the second one would be about calcium. But when it comes to protein, I want everybody to know that all whole plant foods contain protein. They all contain protein. So every food has to have protein in it, every whole food at least. You know, some refined things aren't going to have it, but they're just in different percentages. As long as you're eating an adequate amount of calories, you're going to get enough protein and your child is going to grow great. Just a reminder that human breast milk is actually a low protein food. And I don't think anybody's going to argue that babies don't grow fast enough. They grow really very rapidly. So protein is not a concern for me as long as children are deriving adequate calories from their foods. And then as far as calcium, that one comes up because milk. We have been told over and over again, we have to drink milk for calcium, and even, you know, teen girls and women, at least 3 glasses of milk per day. So there's a lot of fear with giving up milk that, you know, something bad's going to happen as far as calcium intake. We do need to have a sufficient amount of calcium in our diet, but it does not have to come from cow's milk. And in fact, I kind of advise against it coming from cow's milk because there's more risks than benefits to milk, in my opinion, from what I've seen, not only in my practice, but in the literature. So you could get it from fortified plant milk sources, but also calcium set tofu, beans, greens, lots of other places. And then it's very important to also remember that we can only make our bones strong through weight-bearing exercise as well. So we can't just be consuming a bunch of calcium and calcium products and just be sitting around sedentary. That's not going to help us build strong bones.
Yeah, you know, when I take my kids to the pediatrician, we often talk about those two things, protein and calcium. And I always reiterate, the kids are eating tofu, they're eating seeds rich in all sorts of micronutrients. And it's just so hard, I think, for parents to have the conversation, especially if we don't know enough, to then talk to a doctor who also may not know or may only know what they know from medical school. And so have you been communicating with your colleagues in the field of pediatrics, and how has that conversation been going?
I do the best I can. You know, I'm not a pushy person, so I'm not around, you know, trying to educate everybody, but I do put all of my information, pretty much everything is for free on the internet. I do lots of videos, you know, I'm on social media. I think the thing is that we're trained a certain way, and pediatricians especially, we're very protective of our patients, which is great. Like pediatricians, I think is the best specialty, but you know, I'm a little biased. So we're very protective of our patients. We love our little patients, and we have fear. And so if you were taught in medical school and residency that a child must have 2 to 3 servings of dairy per day, and if not, bad things are going to happen, that is how you continue to practice. It took me my own journey and then delving into the research on my own to discover that that wasn't the truth. You know, it's something that you're taught, and medicine and medical education it changes super slowly. So it's something we've been taught for decades and decades and decades. It's going to take a few more decades for this information to penetrate into medical education so that you're going to have more doctors that aren't stressed out when they encounter plant-based children.
Got it. Got it. So let's talk about the average parent, even before we talk about plant-based families, people who are just trying to get more healthy foods into their children's mouths and bellies. What's a strategy that you recommend to encourage kids to enliven their lives with more wholesome plant foods?
Yes, it's so simple, but it requires commitment. And that is the only way that we learn to like a food is through exposure, repetition, and consistency. You have to keep putting those foods on the table in front of your child without pressure. That's the key. You cannot pressure them to eat, but you have to keep exposing your child to those foods. Now, I may have a parent saying, well, I do. No, you don't, because data shows that most parents give up after 3 tries, the majority. There's even a good percentage that are giving up after 1 or 2 tries. So really, if you think about it, are you really? Okay. So that's the most important thing is exposure, repetition, consistency. You have to buy the food. You have to prepare the food. You got to put it in front of your child on the table without pressure. And that's where that division of responsibility really helps to know that the parent and the child have different roles. The parent's job is to decide what, when, and where. What are we going to eat, when, where are we going to eat it? The child then decides if they're actually going to eat it all and how much. And so you try not to cross into each other's autonomy. So don't let the kid tell you, no, I don't want that. Cook me this. That's becoming a short order cook. That's not helping them to explore these different flavors. But also, you're not going to cross into their autonomy and tell them you must finish that broccoli or you're not getting dessert. You know, you need to have 2 more bites or you can't leave the table. That kind of pressure will backfire on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then for families like mine who are feeding their kids a whole food plant-based diet, what's something about nutrition for kids that you think isn't widely known or that's really important to pay attention to when you're feeding only plants to your kids?
Well, I'm not sure what's not widely known, but it is important that we are thinking about the whole picture and that there are some nutrients that maybe we need to think a little bit more deliberately about. We need to make sure that our children are getting enough B12, and it's not difficult to get it. We just have to be deliberate about it. If you don't feel like you're getting enough from fortified food products, then, you know, a simple multivitamin with B12, there's some great multivitamins made for vegan children that have the B12 in there. The other thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is vitamin D. This is not important just for plant-based families, but a lot of omnivorous families, depending on where you live. I live in Washington State, and because our latitude is so high, this time of year, we're not getting any vitamin D from the sun. So if you're not getting it enough from fortified plant products, then getting a supplement there as well. And then the other thing I would say is young kids, like when we have our little toddlers, you know, after they've been weaned from the breast or they're not on formula anymore, making sure that they're not getting too much fiber. You know, fiber is my favorite F word. So I'm a huge component of fiber, but we can't only feed these little toddlers a lot of raw vegetables and raw fruits and expect that they're going to get enough calories. Their tummies are super small. They're very active. So we need to be deliberate about getting nut butters and avocado and lots of good beans and sometimes even some processed foods like some breads and things like that, because the calorie density is a little bit higher. We make sure that they get enough calories throughout the day.
Absolutely. I always see my kids, of course, are just glomming on to anything that's calorie dense. So we try to keep that balance, of course. But I love the other day, my kids weren't eating cucumbers for a while and they're usually like scarfing the cucumbers down. And I got a few cucumbers and then my son like got a stack of cucumber rounds and he was just like popping them in over. And I'm like, okay, we're back in business here. So just going with like the ebb and flow of their relationship with different foods. And it's okay if sometimes they're not eating everything perfectly, as long as here and there and always we're bringing foods back into their lives and helping them reconnect and try new things. So that's great.
Yeah. And it's about trusting your child, you know, just like you, like there's some days maybe you don't want to eat something or you're gravitating more towards something else. you don't get stressed out that your child isn't eating vegetables every single meal or only took a bite of their meal. And, make sure you are taking them to the doctor regularly so that we can follow and track their growth, make sure that they are getting enough intake. But really, in my experience, I have a lot of plant-based families. They grow great. In fact, they're some of the largest kids in my practice. Some of them are. So we just want to make sure that we follow them over time, that they're getting enough. And then you just trust them. You make the food, prepare it, present it to them, and they will eat how much they want to eat.
That's great. Yeah. And so your book about intuitive eating, I want to talk a little bit about that, because some people would say that they're eating intuitively when they're eating like chocolate or meat, right? So what does intuitive eating actually mean, and how can we help our kids be in tune with their own bodies and their habits?
Yeah. When we talk about intuitive eating, we're not talking about that your body somehow knows it needs to eat dark chocolate, because that's always the thing. Like dark chocolate or when something comes up, they're like, oh, your body must be craving magnesium. I actually looked up how much magnesium is in chocolate. It's not really that much. So that's not an excuse. But no, that's not what intuitive eating is about. Intuitive eating, just to simplify it a little bit, when I talk about it, is more about paying attention to our hunger and our satiety. It really is a set of 10 principles that was created by 2 dietitians in the early 90s. They have a book, Intuitive Eating. So that's the Bible, basically, of intuitive eating. And it was really to help support people who wanted to take a non-diet approach to their food and their relationship with food. But the thing is that children are naturally born intuitive eaters. If you see a baby, it'll start eating when it's hungry. When it's done, it pulls its face away from the breast, or it cries like, stop feeding me. And we usually trust that. We're not like trying to force feed little babies. But when our children become toddlers, it's a little bit more anxiety provoking for parents, because toddlers are very busy. They're very active. Their number one job is to explore their environment. So they take a bite, they're satiated, and then they want to play. And then parents get very anxious and concerned that their child is not eating enough. That's when we start doubting this natural ability for them to sense their hunger and satiety. And that's when we start interfering, telling them to eat more, or, you need to eat this before you have that. And then that's when it kind of starts spiraling out of control.
Yeah, it's so interesting how we always sort of second guess kids. And I wish we adults could sort of stop that. Are you sure? Are you sure? No. Like let them be, I feel like should be the mantra for so much of raising children, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're also a coach, and you must have a really good pulse on the behavior change process. For any family that's out there that might be thinking about, going through change and encouraging their family members to do it along with them, how do you motivate people to feel grounded and committed to their change process?
Oh, that's a great question, because the truth is nobody can motivate you. You have to find your own inner motivation. And when it comes to behavior change, when it comes to habit change, when you're trying to adopt new habits or change some of your other habits, it's really important to just take it one step at a time, but only go in the direction that you desire. So if you're doing something because you think it's the right thing, or somebody else is telling you to do that, it's not going to be very successful. You really have to have that internal inherent motivation to make the change, and find ways to keep yourself motivated. There's ways that we can keep ourselves inspired. This is the perfect example of something that keeps you motivated. Doing these webinars, taking part in online communities, just listening to YouTube videos or my podcast, things like that. Do that on a daily basis or several times a week. That will keep you motivated, so you can actually foster your own internal motivation. And then just try things out. Think of it like an experiment. Be curious. Would I be able to eat a plant-based breakfast every day this week? I'm curious. How would I go about that? Okay, I think I have to get ready ahead of time, or I'm going to pick it up from this place or whatever. Let me see if I can go a week. And then after you've done that, you kind of evaluate, what are the things that went well this week? What are the things that I struggled with? How can I change it for next time? Or maybe it went great, and actually that was a pretty easy goal. Okay, now I'm going to add lunches, and I'm going to see if I can do a whole week of breakfast and lunches and go from there. So it's okay to give yourself time, approach it with curiosity, think of it as an experiment, and then have grace with yourself, because as humans, it really isn't easy for us to make habit and behavior changes because we want to stay comfortable. We want to stay safe. We don't want to do anything that causes discomfort. So it's going to take deliberate action and for you to regularly do things that inspire your inherent or internal motivation. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to also spend a moment just talking about culture too and how important that is. And if I may, I heard your TED Talk, the chickpeas over chicken. And I loved you were talking about your experience growing up and your Panamanian roots and the influence of that experience and how animals were part of course, the diet, but also the lifestyle around you. Can you give some examples for how you've fused your cultural identity with a whole food plant-based lifestyle, which is, true for people from all over the world who are trying to find their voices and their identities in the midst of this?
That's a great question. And I feel like my culture and my background and my experience actually helped me go plant-based easier. Because whenever I thought about at the beginning of that experiment, okay, how am I going to do this? I already knew I loved rice and beans because I grew up eating a lot of rice and beans. We eat a lot of beans in Panama, and a lot of delicious different beans. So that actually helped me because I was familiar with a lot of plant-based foods. And I feel like when I think back on my culture and what I ate growing up, all of my favorite foods were actually all the plant-based stuff. In Panama, our main staples are corn, we have rice, we have plantains, and we have yuca, which, oh my gosh, I love yuca so much. So all of those foods, like my favorite foods. And so it was really easy for me to transition, still being able to eat some of my favorite foods from childhood. But that experience of knowing that I can feel full and satisfied on those foods made it so that it didn't feel like it was going to be intimidating for me. And I feel like with lots of different cultures around the world, there's a really great base of plant-based foods. You can continue to eat those foods. But even if your culture, like say you're a standard American diet, and I would say that our culture in particular is one where we don't eat a lot of beans and things like that, you can still have your favorite foods. Like say you just love to eat pizza and things like that. And you can integrate the whole plant foods into that style and still keep all of your favorite foods. You don't have to completely change what you like to eat. And I think that's a really important concept. Like it's not like you're going to go from eating this kind of food to eating a completely different set of foods. You can just take the foods you love and make them more wholesome, more plant-based.
I love eating plants because I know the nutritional value. And actually, the more that I eat plants, the more excited I get about recipes. It's all about recipes for me, especially being a mom and learning how to make food for kids, especially with my daughter. I really love how we make food together. She absolutely loves trying out different recipes. And why not use plants as part of that? So for example, let's just take broccoli. She loves broccoli. So we start to think about like different ways we can make broccoli. Maybe we can make it in like a casserole, or maybe we could just steam them and just add a nice sauce on top. When you're transitioning to eating more plants and having a plant-based diet, start with something very simple. What's the vegetable or fruit that you really love? And start incorporating that as much as possible. Starting with one meal a day is the best thing that you can do. It's easy. You're able to kind of make that into your specialty. And then when you get really good at making meals, you can start bringing that into different gatherings that you're having, especially during the holidays. And the more that you do that, the more that you're going to feel better about yourself.
Hello, my name is Robin Ingman, and I'm a plant-based registered dietitian. I have been prescribing plants and I've been eating plants for the last 10 years. I use a plant-based diet to help me train for and recover from marathons. And I also just had a baby this year, and a plant-based diet really helped me bounce back. And I'm having the best time introducing plant-based solids to my baby as he starts to explore different foods. I love prescribing a plant-based diet to my patients. I think the best part about it is that they can actually eat a lot of food, right? We don't skip on portions when you eat plant-based. We have very large portions and people aren't used to that. they're also not used to me saying, please eat carbohydrates. I recommend eating lots of carbohydrates, and we just talk about the different kinds of carbohydrates they can choose from, and they get so excited and a little bit skeptical that this is okay, but I do love that part about it. I also love when my patients actually get better, when I see them dropping medications, dropping pant sizes, and dropping their disease states, right? So my patients actually get better, which I absolutely love. That is the power of plants for sure. And I use a plant-based diet in my own life. I mean, when I first went plant-based, I didn't know that it would be this amazing, but plant-based diet has been so fun to explore different ways to cook for myself. I went to culinary school, so when I learned a plant-based diet, I had to create recipes now without some of these main ingredients that I thought you needed in different dishes. So it has been a lot of fun exploring these foods and finding new recipes to try. I also wasn't aware that I had acne as an adult because of my diet, because when I went plant-based, it all went away. I no longer had any blemishes on my skin. Everything was very clear. So a plant-based diet definitely helped with that. And right now I get my blood work done every single year and everything kind of stays the same. So I've been kind of preventing any chronic conditions from arising. My blood work looks good year after year. And I'm just staying healthy. And I think another benefit of knowing about a plant-based diet is sharing it with others. I share it with my friends, my family, my new baby. I'm just sharing all this wealth of information. And that's the type of thing I thought I was going to get out of school, right? I thought I was going to learn all this kinds of nutrition in school, but I ended up learning it outside of school. And I'm just so glad I did, because I think this information needs to be spread far and wide. And PPMNY, I think they're a fantastic organization. I heard about them because I started at a small plant pod in Long Island, New York, where I joined because I wanted to meet other plant-based eaters. And we did all kinds of educational events. I did some cooking demos with them. We had lots of get-togethers, and it was so much fun. And then they joined PPMNY to become this really big pod, is what we called it back then. So this big organization, and they're doing some great stuff. So I'm so glad that all of these great minds got to get together to create this one big powerhouse out of New York City. I am so honored to be part of their group and to help their community in any way that I can. They're doing great work, and I can't wait to see where things go in the future.
Every day, Plant-Powered Metro New York is demonstrating the power of plant-based nutrition and community health through cooking classes, workshops and presentations, jumpstart programs, peer support, and so much more. We're offering hope, practical guidance, and skill building to our diverse communities and working in partnership with dozens of organizations to widen awareness. We invite you to give generously today to help us sustain and grow our impact, so that more people can learn about this lifestyle and reclaim their health. All donations are matched, so this is a great time to give, and gifts of all sizes are welcome. Donate online through the QR code or visit the link on your screen. We have only 2 more days left of Plantathon. We'll be back on live tomorrow with a demo by Chef Carol Levy starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, so don't miss it. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for reminders when we go live throughout this virtual showcase and beyond. Have a great night.